welcome to episode 15 of the Nerdkast. I hope you're having a great weekend. Joining me today is a really good friend of mine, the drummer of Earthworm Von Doom and several other projects, including the Linkin Park Experience, I believe. A good friend of mine, Trip. How are you, sir?
I am doing all right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Just full transparency here. Me and Trip are both huge Linkin Park fans, and it's, I believe it said the 18th or 19th anniversary of Meteora was Friday.
Oh yeah. 2021 made it 18. Yeah.
18 years old. So that came out in 2003 then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I was in middle school when Meteora dropped, and yeah, I mean, we'll get into it hardcore today, but my goodness, what a great album. So yeah, we decided to, we're the Nerdkast and we can nerd out about a lot of stuff. And one of those things that we love and that, especially in our area, Trip, that brings us together is like music, especially. And we love talking about music and what inspires us. And so Linkin Park, here we go, man.
Okay.
I guess a good place to start is like, where does Linkin Park, like how far back does it go for you, man? Like when did you get introduced to this band?
It was so inescapable in the early 2000s. It really, truly was honestly one of the most inescapable musical phenomenons. I mean, there were other musical phenomenons going on at that time, but my awareness of what was going on was little because I am younger than you. I'm 27. Yeah. So I turned 28 in November. And, just for some perspective, I was aware of Britney Spears. I was aware of the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, everyone that was huge. I was aware of Limp Bizkit, but I was not
old enough.
I was not privy to any of the lyrical content. For example, I had to ask my mom what Nookie was. So there's
what is he doing this for?
Where does he want her to put the cookie? Like you can't. I couldn't get it, and it was over my head. Like I wasn't even aware of Korn yet or whatever. So. Early 2000s, I would hear snippets of In the End. I had friends that talked about the Shut Up song. And then, truthfully, I think hearing Somewhere I Belong on the radio really drew me in. There was just Meteora awareness and hype at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Faint video had just come out, and there was still just a lot of mystique about Linkin Park to me, like with the internet not being what it is right now, like 2003 dial-up internet. I was really just kind of getting piece by piece by piece of, for example, I didn't know whether or not Chester wore glasses or not, because on all the music videos during Meteora, Chester was wearing glasses. And then you go back to the One Step Closer video, Chester's not wearing glasses. Mm-hmm. So it was just there was a cool mystique, but it wasn't, and keep in mind, I wasn't to this level yet. I didn't discover Slipknot yet. So it wasn't that, it wasn't that kind of mystique where you really don't know. But
you're only to be fair, you're only 7, 8, or 9 around this point. I mean, if you're 20, about to be 28, so yeah, you were 7 when Hybrid Theory dropped, and probably 10 when this dropped, right? Give or take. So, it's Slipknot and Korn and a lot of these bands you named, while they were hugely popular at the time, were still a couple of years away for, I think, both of us, because I didn't get hard into those bands until high school, and by then they were on kind of the tail end of their prime, if I would say.
You want to hear something funnier? You might be able to relate to this. Around this time, Weird Al put an album out, and he had those polka tracks.
Yeah,
he did one about nu metal. He had put Papa Roach and Disturbed and Stained in this polka track, and I straight up had not heard like Disturbed before that. So my awareness of Disturbed and Papa Roach was from the Weird Al polka medley in 2003. And so like there was that. I'm appreciative that at that moment, like I could kind of see the difference in quality between Disturbed and what I would find out with Linkin Park. And that's not taking anything from Disturbed, but you know what I mean.
Well, definitely. And what's interesting about Linkin Park is they hit so many different kind of genres because they weren't strictly nu metal. They weren't strictly alt hard rock, but then they incorporate rap into it as well, and like DJ electronic type music as well. And so what you have in totality, this is very broadly speaking now, but like you have like these first couple albums, which were speaking to like this very angsty, like kind of tweener crowd that we were all a part of. And even like, I don't know, I guess the point I'm trying to make is like, we really grew up with this music for like years and years. Like I could just remember endless hours of playing Smash Brothers on N64 with the Hybrid Theory just on repeat. Like album finishes, boom, like right back into Paper Cut, like over and over and over. I listened to Faint when Faint came out on Meteora. I listened to that individual song on repeat like 20 times in a row at one point because it was so amazing. And like some of my other influences at the time were like Green Day. Like I was big into Green Day and like Puddle of Mud and POD. Like there was a couple of these bands that I saw or heard on the internet or on the radio, because radio was huge back then. Like we weren't into, like we had CDs obviously, but like I grew up with like V8 or not obviously VHS, but what, like just tapes, like legit tapes. You were like big pimping if you had the cassette cable that comes out to a CD player. You run through, battery after battery, but like that was how we listened to music. So the radio kind of gave us some of this more mainstreamy kind of stuff, and Linkin Park just kind of hit me at a moment where it was like I was in 6th grade. I was already kind of in that like trying to be more adult kind of thing and like more responsibilities in my life, and here comes Linkin Park, and it was just kind of like my anthem for years and years, like at least through middle school. Somewhere I Belong is probably one of my top 3 or 5 songs of all time that I will ever listen to. And like anytime it comes on, I'm like, yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is specific to, where we are, one thing that, really supports the dominance of radio in the early 2000s was where we were. And again, this is going to really date us up till WHFS died. We honestly had 101, 98 Rock, and W99.1 all kind of equal rock alternative stations, like
like real rock stations, not like, and I'm not trying to take away anything from anybody if you like that type of music, but like this modern, like very, like I don't know how to even describe it. It's very pop rock in some ways. But not like punk pop or pop punk or whatever. It's
DC 101's format has for sure changed.
It's like Mumford and Sons and Imagine Dragons and all these like really like mainstreamy but like really soft rock type bands, and that's great. It's nice to have those occasionally, but we had everything. Like 99.1 especially, I remember anytime you turned them on, they were playing like unfiltered Green Day. They were playing, all the classic rock bands, and I'm pretty sure I heard like Megadeth and like Deep Cut Metallica on there, and like they were playing like really, really good but eclectic music. And nowadays you might be lucky to get like an Offspring song occasionally. Like it's just a lot of, and maybe that dates me, maybe that's just me being an old fart about it, but I just felt like the kind of music we got in the late 90s, early 2000s, especially when radio was huge and we had HFS and all that stuff, it was just, oh man, we were just spoiled.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that, I got into it kind of at the end of that, because I remember like 101 had, I'm not trying to get into logistics because I don't want to speak out of touch, but like 101 had the budget for like concerts, like for chili cook-offs and all these kinds of shows. And of course, so did WHFS. Like
HF Festival, yep.
Yeah. So like I think it was really kind of like such a good springboard for, you know, the like mainstream rock scene and sort of the subsets of that at that time. Cause like Chili Cook-Offs were having everything from like, you know, in like 98, 99, having like Blink or whoever play those
It's
shows.
like Jay-Z was at an HF festival, and like some of
Yeah,
these
like
like hardcore,
Eminem would play, yeah.
yeah, like they had like not just they had some people that you had never heard of. Like I never heard of like Interpol at the time, but like certain bands that I got really into later. But then they had like Billy Idol and Foo Fighters and Coldplay and like these like massive headliners. I know back in the day they had like I think what was it, The Offspring and Stained and like just a whole bunch of like mega bands at the time who would like are of course coming off of like Woodstock 99 and stuff like that. So they played like some of these the biggest shows ever.
Yeah, I think the last like breakout band to play like a WHF festival, I think honestly was Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah,
Like
I kind of heard of them more through
that
the
kind of
Warp
dates,
Tour like thing, but
so
yeah,
that
they did
dates
play.
that
I think
time. Yeah.
I want to say the one I went to was 2005, and that was just like that was my first mega like I've been to a concert experience. Like I'd been to a couple like random ones that I can't remember who they were for and stuff, but like that was the first time. It was like freshman year of high school. I'm going to this show. I actually worked that show, like in the vendor section, but it yeah, oh my god, what a great time! Like,
Hell yeah.
but anyways, that's just painting the landscape for like where Linkin Park kind of came into, I assume, both of our lives is like this early 2000s. Radio's still big. This band kind of checked a lot of boxes because I was big into like rap and hip hop of the early like late 90s, early 2000s, which is like really, really gangster shit. And yeah, like the fact that they incorporated rhythmic vocals like rapping and stuff like that, like I was just it checks so many boxes. It has the hard, like the heaviness that I love in metal. It has clean vocals and harsh vocals, oddly enough done by the same guy who, if, you know, Chester's no longer with us, RIP, but you know, this dude is probably one of the greatest vocalists of all time, certainly in the rock genre. Like and you know, Mike Shinoda as a kind of a producing genius and all this kind of stuff, and just all those guys are just so talented. But let's talk about like what are some of your, because we're talking about the, you know, Meteora's anniversary and stuff, but like what are some of your favorite albums and songs that they've put out?
Okay, so you know, because Meteora was my entry point, I I always put that at number one, but it kind of got harder to call something number one when I found equal reasons across all seven. And when, you know, they started, like when Minutes to Midnight was coming together and when A Thousand Suns was coming together, you know, I think those two albums for sure were real tests for us, real kind of just, you know, you have to chew this one hard.
Well,
and One More Light was like that too.
A Thousand Suns especially.
Yeah, so like I think so the year Minutes to Midnight came out was the year I started drum lessons.
Oh yeah, no shit.
Like it's like I got my first kit April of 07 and Minutes to Midnight came out in May. And I have a soft spot for being able to hear Rob Borden's drums clear on a record. Like, you know, before that, it was in the mix as much as the beats that were being programmed. And I'll get to it later when we talk about the tribute band. You know, when it came to learning the really electronic songs, like it was a total just test of discipline to pick out what Rob is playing on a One More Light song or whatever. But yeah, songs like The Little Things Give You Away, I really feel like is a just super advanced song for the DJ band for Linkin Park. I think that song is really kind of just, you know, it was definitely written for the time, absolutely. But
well, what's interesting about you, and you're gonna have to correct me if I'm wrong. His name's Rob Borden, right?
Yeah.
I saw a documentary when they were making Meteora, and like he made a specific point to like go into the studio knowing his parts like just complete muscle memory by that point. I remember hearing, I forget if it was Rick Rubin or somebody was producing them at the time, and it was like he's like, yeah, he's knocking it out of the park. He's making virtually no mistakes, and just it just kind of shows like how much dedication and stuff these guys had to their craft and like the actual music. Like I don't remember anything besides Chester's passing that was even like the slightest bit controversial about how these guys went about their business.
Yeah, no, like truthfully, like their discipline was like right there from the beginning. There's this good book that came out, you know, as they were doing all this Hybrid Theory anniversary stuff last year. Their old A&R guy put out a book, like the guy who signed them when they were teenagers, put out a book about what it was like to make Linkin Park a band fit for the label and what it was like for Hybrid Theory to get made. And he pretty much said that Brad and Mike's, you know, drive and hustle was there when they were even in high school.
Yeah. I mean, it's just wild that like one of the hardest things for, I think, musicians, including myself, I'm sure you've ran into it as well, but it's like when you're writing music and somebody you trust, whether it's a producer or your bandmate or somebody comes along and says like, I just don't really like that verse or that this or what this anything. And what stands out to me in some of the documentary stuff I've seen of them is like they got upset and frustrated, but they then went and actually redid what wasn't strong enough, and their music became all the stronger for it. And it's like bands like Queen, even, that when you watch Bohemian Rhapsody, and Freddie Mercury at one point is like, you know, I'm not going to be upset about you, like, you know, forcing us to rewrite constantly, to Brian May and stuff like that. It's like that's why some bands are, you know, go from just bands to like legendary musicians and stuff. Is like when you can take criticism and properly channel it into good rewrites, and like, you know, they weren't writing for the fans and everything, but like trying to like really take a close look at sort of universal themes. Because I know we're all over the place in this episode, so I apologize to the audience, but I'm just kind of meandering in my love and thoughts of this band. But you know, like their themes in their music are so universal that I think you can play almost any song they ever played, and so pretty much everybody can relate to it. Like there's obviously ones that really like, you know, stand out for me, like Numb and Breaking the Habit and certain ones like that. And like Breaking the Habit wasn't my favorite song, but the themes and the lyrics and the everything they're touching on in some of these, it's very like Nirvana. What Nirvana was for a lot of like kids in the early 90s is what like this was for us, I think.
Yeah, I've picked up on that for sure. Like, you know, just, I mean, truthfully, in conversations I've had, I'm very fortunate to have kept contact with like diehard fans. Like I joined the fan club after I got into the band. It was in that time between Meteora.
Is it still the LP Underground?
Mm-hmm. This was during 4.0. So this is between Meteora and Minutes of Midnight coming out. Like it's literally the most like dry time of their history before 2017. I've, you know, through then, like I was able to make friends, either like some local ones. Well, I say local, and you know, it would just mean the people that would come to the DC show. So I mean, like the first true friend I made on LPU, like he's from Virginia. Like, you know, it's just literally just like, you know, if we're only an hour and change away from each other, but you know, that was a connection. And then I guess I started going to shows. Like I would meet up with people based on, oh, hey, you're so-and-so username. Oh yeah, you're so-and-so. Oh, I came all the way out from New Jersey. Oh, I came all the way out from Georgia. Oh, I came all the way out from Germany. Like it just wow. was really such it got more and more normal, like as they would tour less frequently. Like Minutes to Midnight was the last time they did 4 US legs for a tour, because then for 1,000 Suns they did 2 US legs. Living Things they did like 1.5, and so on and so forth, because they would just churn records out after 1,000 Suns.
Well, I saw them at Project Revolution in 2008. It was I remember specifically because I went to a ton of like amazing concerts that summer, but it was the year I graduated high school. It was the summer right after, before college started up, and like me and a couple of my buddies, and we all went, and oh my god, Project Revolution is by far like I have a couple that might rival it in terms of like fun or intensity or this or that, but really Project Revolution in 2008 was probably the best all-around concert experience I've ever had, and obviously headlined by Linkin Park. But you had Chris Cornell did his solo project, and Chester came out and they sung together, and that was effing amazing. And then you had like Atreyu right after the Lead Sails Paper Anchor. They were on the side stage with 10 Years. So that was dope. You had, just tons of really, really good music. And of course, then you get like a 2.5-hour performance from Linkin Park. And they go through, they had just released Minutes to Midnight at that point. They go through almost every song on the first 3 albums. And it just blew my mind, like how good it was. Because they're not like those slouchy type of artists where the album sounds one way and then you go see them live and it's like off key and people don't sound good or whatever. No, they brought it hard. They opened with No More Sorrow. It was just, they at one point brought like 40 drummers out on stage and had like this drum corps thing going. It was, man, really good.
Like they knocked the Project Revolution concept just out of the park. And as a fan, I speak for all the diehard fans that wish that stuck around. I do get why, keeping a touring festival up year after year after year kind of, weakens the foundation, and something will give. Everything from Ozfest to Warped Tour to Mayhem Fest, yep. And all Sounds of the Underground
and Carnival of Madness, if you didn't say that.
Even and Lollapalooza, and like every package tour would before COVID.
What was the one back in the day that was for like hardcore and death metal or whatever? Was it Sounds of the Underground? Yes.
Or even like the only one that I can think of, that the ones that stuck around year after year after year before COVID, honestly, was like Summer Slaughter. But like on that level, you're in a club.
Yeah.
And I think Project Revolution,
they packed that with like 40 acts sometimes. Yeah. And like Death Fest is like an event type thing, 2 or 3 days of, just craziness.
Like they could have kept PR. And it's funny to say that because obviously PR means other things, but they could have kept Project Revolution going, I think, for every album if they toured harder for every album, because I think they would have been able to keep the interest going for the record, and they would have been able to keep the interest going for, who's going to play this year? Like they even were doing it in Europe. Like the year that you saw them, like they did a Project Revolution leg in Europe like months before with like Jay-Z and like Pharrell opening. Like,
well, that's a good segue to what I was going to bring up next, is just kind of their discography in general. And like, so the first 3 albums, in my opinion, it's probably because I saw them right on the Minutes to Midnight circuit, but those 3 albums to me are like pretty much the holy trinity of Linkin Park, and like so good. I don't really think of any song off there, any of those 3 albums, that I'm just like, nope, I can't do it. 1,000 Suns, probably not for me as much. Same with a lot of their other stuff after Minutes to Midnight, but there's a ton of stuff and little songs sprinkled throughout that I just adore. And I'm just going to shout a couple out right now. And it's like one of my favorite songs of theirs is New Divide off of the Transformers 2 soundtrack, which was amazing. Their Collision Course comp with Jay-Z is incredible. I could still listen to that constantly. There's a couple, oh gosh, what is the one?
Living Things?
It's off of Living Things, I think.
Burn It Down?
It's not Burn It Down. I do like that song, but it's the
Lost in the Echo?
Lost in the Echo. Oh, yep. Man. That's some of the best Mike Shinoda I think we've ever gotten in that song. And then like War and Guilty All the Same and stuff like that came off of like some of the newer albums. Like those are really dope. And part of my problem is I just haven't really sat down and listened to a lot of those new ones, like in their entirety, and given them the fair space to breathe. And part of it's nostalgia, I think. I mean, you go back this far, it's like that 7 albums is a lot, and you're going to get stuff you like and that you might not like quite as much. But what say you about like all these different things they've done? Even last one I want to mention, the Busta Rhymes Linkin Park thing that we made it. That was on Madden 09, I remember. But,
yeah, that was a fun collab too, just because, you know, yeah, they did Jay before that. They did Reanimation before the Busta song. And they hadn't done like a collaborative song from scratch properly before that. So that was cool in concept. And I wish it had more legs. And I think this is going to kind of get into why I've given every album its due. Sadly, the only one I'll get into it. Why? Well, so when Midnight was coming out, I already had tickets to the shows I was going to see that summer.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I was already in. I had a fan club membership. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was in. Like, Linkin Park was my favorite band. I waited 3 years for a new album. I'm learning the drums, and I'm starting to diversify my musical palette. So when they put out something radically different from the album that was in my Walkman when I was in 5th and 6th grade, like that I was cool with this change. And then 1,000 Suns is coming out again. I already have like tickets to the release show. They did a release show in New York City because it was like the only US show of 2010.
Yeah.
And they, you know, between like fan club hype and stuff, I was already in. And 1,000 Suns came out when I discovered metal. Like I already was into metal when 1,000 Suns came out. So I was not a popular metal guy. Well, who is a popular metal guy?
Right,
I mean, I was already like weird for liking metal. And then I was weird to metal people for liking the album with like the electronic album.
Mm-hmm.
And then Living Things comes out again under the same hype of they're about to go on tour. And it's Hunting Party just was fucking aggressive right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. But that's kind of where I come back into them a little bit. Like I tended to lean out when they got into 1,000 Suns, and Living Things kind of got me a little bit. But yeah, it was when like Hunting Party came back and I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I remember and loved so much, is like they were hitting that mark better. And that's, you know, it's tough to really, when it comes to music especially, like if they wanted to go that way and they were happy with it, then by all means go that way, be happy with it. I'm happy for you. It didn't resonate with me as much. But,
the shaky song, the songs that I had that I had to be sold on, I had to be sold on live. Like, I think that's truly what kind of won me over when, you know, something like Lost in the Echo, you kind of know right away if you like it or not. Something like Waiting for the End, you kind of know right away. But like the deep songs, the Robot Boy or Until It Breaks or, you know, Roads Untraveled or
In
those
Pieces,
deeper songs.
That was for me. In Pieces, when he, I think his name is Josh, the guitar player. Brad. When he does the solo in that song live, it's amazing.
Yeah, so like I think even, and this is weird to say because the song's phenomenal, but When They Come For Me was a sell. Like I had to see them play it with like they totally pulled a Slipknot with it. They had extra drums up front. Like Brad and Chester would play extra drums to When They Come For Me live. And that was just like, even the Catalyst. The Catalyst was a single. Like everyone knew it. But when I was like getting, receiving those songs live, it, was like, okay, yeah, this is why I love this band. This is why I love this new direction, because they put together something that sounds like just insane, and then they don't BS it.
Yeah. They they're just such a great band. So I talked about a little bit like what shows I had been to. I know you've been to like a ton of their shows before their untimely, breakup and everything. What tell us about some of your experiences going to shows, seeing Linkin Park and stuff like that.
So I think because Minutes to Midnight was so really reliable for predicting their tour schedule, it got, even at age 13, 14, I mean, look, living in this area, like they're not going to, no matter what, they're going to not skip the DC area, even if they play one show. So, for Minutes to Midnight, I got to catch them for my first ever show at the Bamboozle Festival in New Jersey.
Wow.
And that GA ticket, $35.
Wow.
35. Fucking excellent.
That's a steal by today's standards.
The only other like really dope show that I went to that cheap was Slipknot 2 years later. So
my parents, I hate when my parents pull out their old tickets of shows they've been to and they're like, I saw Eddie Van Halen for $5. It's like, fuck you. It's like,
like Iron Maiden tickets for $7. Like, it's insane.
It breaks my heart. Like, damn inflation.
I saw Linkin Park 8 times before Chester died. I went to the memorial show, so that puts it at 9. And then I missed. So Fort Minor, Mike literally was doing that the year before Minutes to Midnight came out. So I had in my mind that my first concert was going to be Linkin Park. So I don't regret missing Fort Minor, but I do, because,
that would have been a
shows.
fun, side thing. That's how I feel about the Collision Course album, is I would have loved to be of the age, and I think they only did it in like New York, but they did a live performance of it. And I was like, oh man, what it would have been like to be in that. Because that was like legit, like it was some Hybrid Theory, but it was also a lot of Meteora mixed with Jay. So good. So good.
Yeah, I saw Mike twice though. When he was doing a solo tour, and I saw Chester with Dead by Sunrise once. And
I really also wanted to see Chester with when he did his run with Stone Temple Pilots. I thought that would have been super good. Yeah,
that just always missed me. Like, and I got into SDP, like their back catalog, sadly after Scott died. It was really weird, but
they came from a very, very hard era of grunge, and I mean, I consider SDP like really like pure grunge. Early 90s Seattle kind of. Did they come from Seattle? I can't remember if they were part of that.
California, I think.
I think you're right. I think it was like either Bay Area or I could be wrong.
No, I think they're from like Malibu or something.
Really?
Well, the brothers are from New Jersey and they moved to California. But yeah, I think they're from like Long Beach or like fun California or San Diego.
I'm very happy. I've seen a lot of great artists before their untimely passing, and I'm like, it's hard to be. I don't know. It's hard to fathom that like you have to kind of make yourself go to certain shows that you're like, oh, they'll come around again. It's like, not always. I think of Chester. I saw him once. I saw the Rev with Avenged Sevenfold once. Paul from Slipknot. I saw him at the first Mayhem Fest, and then he died shortly thereafter, and it's just crazy, man. Like It's sad, and then like Chris Cornell, like I saw Chester and Chris Cornell who were like best buds of all time at the same show, singing together, singing. I think it was Like a Stone or one of those Audio Slave covers.
Hunger Strike.
Was it Hunger? Oh, it was Hunger Strike.
That's Hunger Strike.
Oh,
yeah. And Chris came out during
I'm
Crawling.
going hungry.
Because I caught that, and my mom's side of the family lives in Chicago, so I caught PR08 in Wisconsin.
Dude, I had a guy who sang in my high school who would just sit behind me, and I think it was health class, and just go, I don't mind stealing bread, like all the time. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I heard that song, I was like, oh, this song is awesome. Like, it's so catchy.
He should have followed it up by like taking your bread. Like if he was like,
I'm going hungry.
Like the guys behind Napoleon Dynamite that are like bullying him for the tater tots. He should be like, yo, hey,
this is mine,
I told you I was going to take your bread. Oh, I thought you were just
dude.
Chris Cornell.
That's the song that I would love to do. Pull the John Mulaney and go into a bar and just put it on the jukebox like 20 times in a row, and then put like Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, and then go back to Hunger Strike for another time.
I love putting on just meme songs on the jukebox, as you could probably guess. But like, I'm gonna quickly jump into Earthworm World for a second. There were the second to last night of our tour with Exemptus, like the last show,
Canadian tour, right?
Canada and the US, yeah. So like when the last show was in Towson, but the show before that was in PA, and they were driving back to Maryland that night. We stayed at a friend's house in PA. So end of the show, we're just hanging out, drinking and stuff, and there's a digital jukebox there, but we played a metal show, so I'm not putting on metal. Like some of the Exemptus guys were putting on metal. I walk over, I'm putting on Drake Bell, I Found a Way. I put on Despacito and All Star and just all these, just like, it's like throw the vibe off songs. Because
what's funny is like people might think of metal people as like a certain way, but I can attest from like everything from big shows to very tiny like hole in the wall local shows, metalheads are all like have a hilarious sense of humor. And so like if you put Despacito on in a room full of metalheads, chances are they're going to sing it out of key and try and like dance to it and stuff like that.
Oh, well, especially when you're in a room with Exemptus, when you have
bunch of
Rick,
goofballs.
When you have Rick and Jake right in front of you, like you're just going to go into meme world.
Oh yeah. Good times. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about, you're in a cover band, right? That is still going, correct?
So there is I hate to like spill public beans because we just have just not been personally, regardless of COVID, we haven't been personally active since and there's a bigger story with us and our genesis, but our Mike Shinoda, Sanjay moved out of Maryland a few years ago. So when Sanjay was moving, we put together the last two shows that we did, and then we keep the group chat going to this day, and we talk LP, like that's just what we do. I mean, we catch up about our lives and stuff too, but at the end of the day, it started literally the week after Chester passed away. We started as like a means to put on a vigil. Like we put together
kind of a coping mechanism, right?
Yeah,
a little bit.
Well, what we did was we put on a vigil at Jiffy Lube Live, like the day LP and Machine Gun Kelly were going to be at Jiffy Lube Live for the One More Light tour, and then we scheduled the vigil for the day that would have been. I honestly, keep in mind, I only knew Sanjay a little bit from LPU, and I did not know Josh, who is our Brad. I literally was meeting Josh then, and we brainstormed were to do the vigil, I said Jiffy Lube Live just on a whim. I was like, that technically is the venue they've played at in the DC area the most.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sanjay called them. They said, yeah, we can let you guys, congregate in front of doors and just play acoustically and kind of just, talk and do a candlelight vigil. And we did that. And it just was just this wild improvisational experience where, like, I brought a cajon, Sanjay and Josh each had acoustic guitars, and people, there were Chester pictures and candles, and it was just super somber and sad, and yet playing Linkin Park songs where we barely had to sing shit. Like, everyone was singing, and like it just was really this.
All their songs are just so instantly, like, I could not listen for Linkin Park for like years and years, and as soon as you put like In the End or any of these on, I sing everybody's part. Like, I have like the first three albums, all the lyrics are permanently etched into my brain.
Yeah, like Somewhere I Belong and From the Inside at that show, I remember. Like,
oh man, I'm so glad you brought up From the Inside, that song. Oh man,
people just took it away. Like, and it was really powerful enough for us to want to pursue the tribute band, and we did, to the extent that we put together a show on the anniversary of when Chester died and raised money for the suicide prevention group that his widow started. And, it really brought it full circle, but, it really, it accomplished what we wanted it to do. And I've seen with, there have been, and this is what I'm going to kind of get at, there have been LP tribute bands that have started since us that have used the words Linkin Park Experience in their name. And it's just not a fight that we need to fight to be the biggest fish in the, it
defeats the purpose of what your goal is. It just gets into the muck and mire of the music industry that defeats the purpose.
Yeah, like there's like, I hate to bring this band up because it's, just another example, but like Sublime, Bad Fish, their tribute band is like, it's makes as much and is as popular as like any like club level drawing 500 people band, drawing more than that. Like some people even argue
love the music, and I think if you play it well enough, it is a good substitute. I mean, people will go to just like hole in the wall, like I think of like Union Jacks and places like that, where it's like cover bands play there all the time, and people pack in there because they love the music and they can sing to it and dance to it. They're familiar with it.
Yeah, and I think other than coping and starting friendships, we're forging friendships. Mm-hmm. Like, truthfully, what our goal was and is, it was to articulate what diehard fans would want out of Linkin Park, and that's why we arranged set lists to be like the shows. Like, they would have like 2007 intros to One Step Closer or something, and we would work that in, but then they would have a special intro for Faint, so we'd learn that. Or Mike would rap some extra stuff at the beginning of Points of Authority, so Sanjay would learn blah 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 Fort Minor song to rap over it. And truly, like, I mean, the fact that we made, I mean, this is a personal relation. Obviously my band is myself and my bass player, so when it came to emulating Linkin Park and keeping 5-6 people on the same page, it's not an easy thing to do.
No.
But the true, like, it was a real first off, it was a real diamond that so Josh is a music teacher. Josh taught our DJ's kids. Like, our DJ has kids, and they took like piano lessons from Josh. And Vrock is a traditional DJ. Like, he's not like Skrillex or whatever. Like, he would spin kind of traditionally, and it just wedged in. And then truthfully, we found Arnold, through him. He and a friend had like a covers group, I think, and we knew he was a Linkin Park fan, and we knew he had the enthusiasm. And when he came by to jam with us for the first time, and this is something that Sanjay, Josh, and I would do, is that we just would jump into deep songs, even if we didn't know if we knew how to play Wastelands or something. And so Arnold could do that. Arnold, just would offhand would jump into When They Come For Me or something, and like literally on the first day. So it really was just this, and it helps that Arnold, as a fan, not because he joined up with us, but as a fan, he did get the Chester Flames.
Oh, wow.
And, it just really was, it's just like a gang of misfits. Like, it really is how we functioned, was the fact that, we all had like this mutual deep love. And yet on the same token, like, we're not from the tribute band. I mean, of course I'm not. We're not from the tribute band circuit. Like,
yeah,
like because there are people that, start tribute bands, join tribute bands because they know how to emulate other artists. And truthfully, we jumped into playing Linkin Park because we worship Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Like, if someone were to ask me to play Deftones songs in a cover band, it would not feel fun. And I love Abe. I love Deftones, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just kind of goes back to, like, I put certain bands at this echelon where, like, Linkin Park is one of them. Metallica is probably one of them. There's a couple other bands that are, like, up there that, like, most of their songs, like Trivium. For me, actually, Breaking Benjamin, I really love Breaking Benjamin, and, like, Killswitch Engage. Those are a lot of bands that, like, if I knew how to play a lot of their stuff, I would totally, like, play their stuff constantly. But, yeah, there's other bands that we could go down a long laundry list of that, like, there's some great songs that you love, and then there's a ton of songs that you're just like, I don't care. But it's funny how this band in particular, just like I said, like, it comes back to me no matter when it comes on, whenever I hear it, it's just, I'm singing it again, like, immediately. That's that good. But anyways, is there anything we haven't covered yet that you want to talk about, man, before we wrap this sucker up? What do you think?
I think that's pretty, like, it's Linkin Park definitely at this point is really like a group to, I'd be shocked if there are those that aren't aware, but of course it's a super inviting fan base. And I think that's why, I found your podcast kind of voice this on, is that, there are super immersive fan bases out there. To some people, they may feel like an immersive, deep lore fan base is like something that is not inviting. And with Linkin Park, that truly could not be further from the case. There's not this like elitism because someone went to shows in 2004 and then someone discovering Linkin Park now won't get to have that experience of seeing Figure 9 in concert or something. Like, it just is it's a super, super inviting fan base, to the point
not
where
really any kind of that toxicity you see in so many fan bases, not just music, but just in general. Fandoms they have their bad actors sometimes, but Linkin Park doesn't really have that. You have some people who say, like, some of these songs aren't for me, but then I don't think anybody's like mad at them for it or anything like that. It's just like,
there's a divide. There is a divide in the message.
A new divide
for sure. Yes, no, but people land on the same thing, and I for sure saw that after Chester passed away. For sure, the fan base, is already like a super lean on a bull thing, And then after it just was magnified that the fan base and the community just is there for each other, lets other people in. And that's why, like, it's this thing where,
sense of
Park,
belonging and like people
Linkin
who
Park,
understand you. That can, sorry, go ahead.
They would draw 20,000 people to a show or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a testament to that. And it's a testament to why the fan bases, depending on, the streaming service or the social media of your choice, if you look them up, the number is at least 500 million or something. Like, it's that insane. Like,
you're not kidding, man. Well, I think about it even kind of piggybacking off what you're saying. It's like there was nobody ever before like Linkin Park, and there really hasn't been anybody since they came around that's been like in the Linkin Park category of like greatness, like in terms of what niche they filled in the musical spectrum. Like, I don't think of many bands that are like, maybe not yet, at least. I don't know. Do you differ on that, or?
As far as prior or before?
Well, I'm just saying, like, there was no one like him before, and there hasn't been anyone like him since, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that there's bands that for sure have, well, not just bands. I think the entire world changed based on the Linkin Park success model.
Mm-hmm.
I think as far as before them, there were for sure pieces of the Linkin Park success model in what they liked. But I think it had to be, don't want to be punny, it had to be the hybrid for it to be something that people have molded since 2000.
Kind of like, well, for their inception was certainly felt like lightning in a bottle that lasted over like 3 albums that just drew in all those people. And then since then, once music is out there, people can always go back and rediscover things. I knew people up to like recently who haven't even discovered bands like In Flames and stuff like that yet. And it's amazing because then they get to go back and discover this just treasure trove of amazing music that's out there. And, hopefully this and other discussions like it will help like kind of inform people, at least to bands that we would highly recommend. And I love hearing, if there's another Linkin Park out there and I just don't know about it, and somebody like has heard this band that's just incredible, tell us about it. I'd love to hear it. But I like to play a little game, and it's a rankings sort of game, but with this it's going to be very, very difficult. So what I'll say is, like, loosely, what is albums? Well, not even albums, because I think albums, the first two will probably always get picked in most circles, I think. But what are like your top 3 to 5 songs, and maybe one that people don't know about so much that they need to check out?
All right. Well, I'll rattle off 3 that are just go-tos, and then 3 that are deep. Really, when it comes to early stuff, you can't go wrong with A Place for My Head. You really cannot go wrong with that fucking song. I think Nobody's Listening is a really, 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 I think you have to like get it to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me years to get it. I also think Iridescent is a really strong and powerful song. And then deeper songs, things like A Line in the Sand just has so many twists and turns. That's off The Hunting Party. A song like Nobody Can Save Me is really fun, as is Good Goodbye with Pusha T. And I think to wrap it, let's see, I already mentioned a Thousand Suns song. Back to Until It Breaks, it's a song that a lot of people don't like, but that song has Mike on vocals, Chester on vocals, and Brad on vocals. I think
wow,
it's a really kind of just just powerful and interesting and out there song for them. And actually, a little bonus the forgotten. Everyone cites Reanimation. I will say the Castle of Glass remix on Recharged. Like Recharged was them basically doing Reanimation for Living Things.
Yeah.
And the Castle of Glass remix is just, it's way trancier. I think it just has a lot more energy than the song. And the song Castle of Glass is excellent as well.
It is a good song. Certainly really good lyrics. I mean, pretty much every one of their songs has good lyrics, good musicianship and all that. It's kind of like a staple of theirs, which is why they're in this category or echelon of bands. A couple of songs for me that and they're going to be a lot more mainstreamy probably, but so off the first album specifically, I mean, I love Paper Cut, but I'm just not going to mention it in this category only because I think Crawling and you said A Place Where My Head is really, really good. Oh gosh, what was I going to say? It's like the last song on that album. I'm going to have to look it up right now.
On Hybrid Theory?
Yeah.
Pushing Me Away?
Pushing Me Away is so good. That one's amazing. Meteora, you said it earlier, From the Inside. I absolutely love From the Inside. I love Numb. I love Somewhere I Belong, again, is one of my top 3 songs of all time. I think Don't Stay is surprisingly good. It's the first song after their pre-intro on that album. And the fact that it's in drop B, it makes it just so crazy heavy. There was one specific tour. I don't think it was, well, it might have been the one in Texas that they did. But anyways, they come out and they that was their opener song is Don't Stay. And it hits so hard at the beginning. Between the, Brad's guitar riff and then the Mr. Hahn on the turntables, just it hits so effing hard in your face. But Faint and oh gosh, what is the one song? It's the 3rd song on the album, 3rd or 4th.
Line From You.
Line From You.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Some of Chester's hardest vocals. Minutes to Midnight, I love Giving Up. What I've Done, both because it was in the Transformers movie, but also because it's just such an effing good song and is really the most indicative of what their prior music was like on Minutes to Midnight, I think. And then I really like Valentine's Day and No More Sorrow. Those are good ones, as well as In Pieces. I think all those songs are super, super good. And there's some slower, rappy songs that Mike does on that album that I think are also highly underappreciated. I forget the one where he's talking about it's literally just him rapping, but it's kind of spoken word style rap, and it's really good.
Hands Held High, yeah.
Hands Held High, yep.
Yeah.
Some of the other deep cuts, because those are really my top 3 albums that I obviously go back to, but the intro on Reanimation is one of the best cinematic style intros into any album I've ever heard. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
And that whole really, I used to listen to, I think it was one of the back half of that album, the last couple tracks are just straight fire after fire. But then okay, so A New Divide, great song. Lost in the Echo, those 2 are amazing. I really like the song War. War is this kind of callback to really what I think of early 90s punk, and just it's a very aggressive, in your face kind of anti-war type song, and I really like it. But yeah, I mean, I think if anybody hasn't ever listened to Linkin Park or hasn't listened to them in a long time, I think it's a good idea to maybe either check them out or give them another pass, and just kind of go on YouTube, put them on, listen to the playlist or something with maybe a mix of all their different songs and music videos. And it's just so good. My words cannot do justice to how good Linkin Park is as a band and was as a band. And it's so unfortunate that we tend to lose talented people like Chester way too early. But with that, thank you so much, Trip, for joining us today, man. This was a great episode. I'm hoping it's a sign of things to come, because there's just so much great music to talk about. And I mean, some of the bands we were mentioning earlier, like Korn and Slipknot and some of those bands, I could go on 4-hour rants about some of these bands and how much I love them, or had it always kind of certain bands that hit me at a point in my life, I just love and are like part of me now. I'm sure that's the way it is for a lot of people. But
oh yeah, like Linkin Park, just for anyone watching, especially creative people, like I think hopefully this is the clickbaity thing to say, is that there's just so many notes to take. Like, even if you are an extreme metal person, even if you're an extreme into any genre that wouldn't look two ways at the band with the diamond selling album and the big radio singles, I think truthfully there's enough to kind of take from the template of Linkin Park where you can be someone who creates anything and take inspiration.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to sum them up, and a great place for us. So again, I'm going to put it in the description, but Trip is the drummer of a great band called Earthworm Von Doom, and they are doom metal, in case you can't glean that from their band name. But they've been around for quite a while, and they're super talented and great guys. So I hope you go and give their stuff a listen. Are there any plugs you want to put in here, Trip, at the end?
Honestly, just the Earthworm socials, I guess, is really the only plug. We're chipping away at the new one.
Nice. Yeah, man. And yeah, it's been a great time. So everybody, please check us out on Facebook, Twitter. We're on, wherever podcasts are available, we are there. Just please like and subscribe on YouTube. That is super important and helps us out a lot. So thank you so much, everybody, for that. And always remember, please be excellent to each other.